This is IBM Museum. In this video, we are going to do the system information tool running on a 25 megahertz Model 80. Those were called the 8580-AXX. The A meaning that it was a 25 megahertz 386DX CPU that the unit was based on. And the following X's were other parameters of the submodel, meant the drive size, the memory that was included, even in some cases the operating system that was installed on the unit. I'm doing this in a little bit different format in that the machine is standing up as it would in a normal environment. The tower case has a very, these can be with the full-size drives can be very heavy, has a handle on top, and I've got the feed out. Now I do have, this is kind of a bare bones unit. I don't have any hard drives installed on it. I just have the diskette drive, and it's not actually even this diskette drive that's on the front here, so you won't see that light up or anything else for the video. I've got the system information tool on a diskette inside the unit. Now, at some later point, I'll go through and expand the videos likely to showing how to open up the unit, what's inside. I did announce on a previous video on how I plan to go through and have a planer, the motherboard of the unit, out to kind of cover that before going through and writing the system information tool, just to provide a little bit of a basic layout and just having that all wrapped up in one video. So there is one, a chance that I may go through and do this video in that more complete format later on. But I'm just gonna try the format of having the planer here. And of course, it's easy to see the 386DX CPU and the chip next to it that's the same size. That's actually an 80385. That's the cache controller. This unit does have some cache that is to help the CPU performance, and that's just 64 KB of cache. I'll provide a link in the video description of the page on this model. And I do have the math coprocessor in the socket here. Then going, I guess, in no standard format whatsoever, we've got the power connection, and this would be at the top of the unit, and of course the I/O ports being on the back of the unit. These are connectors for the memory modules on the Type 3. They had in fact, I had some sitting out earlier and I put them away. These take a 4 megabyte module in each one of these. So you could have 8 megabyte on the planer, and that is the only supported model, the only supported memory module of these units. So you either had, the older Model 80 memory is just too slow for it. So you either had, both populated for 8 megabyte or the, and I think that on this planer it's independent, but the, normally the module closest to the power supply on these unit is typically the first one you populate. So on the back of the planer, you have the keyboard and mouse connections here at the top. Then you have the parallel port, and these do the postcode output to the parallel port. So you can have these little, I have this little thing set in the side of the postcode reader with the PS2 mouse adapter. And so what I typically do is have the keyboard plugged in and have this connected to the mouse connector for power to be able to plug that into the parallel port and have the codes read. There's the serial port here and DB 25 male, and then the VGA connection, high density, HDB 15 pin. We get to the adapter slots. These are the full 32-bit adapter slots. This is the shorter 16-bit slot. These are 16-bit with the AVE on the back, the AVE extension on the back of these. And the Type 3 Model 80 planar is unusual that it has two of these slots. Normally only one would be supported for having a memory board in. I mean, it's going to be a video board that it spans, uses that auxiliary video connection back to the planar, because there may be instances like the 8514/A video adapter gets that VGA side from the planar and then has a different method on how it displays for the monitor that's connected to that adapter. But there's two of these 16-bit with the AVE extension on this Type 3, back to another 32-bit slot, microchannel, 16-bit microchannel slot, and then at the very bottom, the two 32-bit microchannel adapters. We have the speaker and battery connection here on the front of the unit. Here is the ROM BIOS. And actually I guess I was pointing out earlier, I had my fingers over calling this the cache, and that's the video memory. It's actually, these chips are the 64 KB of cache. Get that right and make the correction on my video. Please don't leave necessarily a comment when you first witness this and me calling the video RAM as the cache for the CPU. And then up here in this corner, we have the connection for the diskette drive, being up towards the top of the unit, very close to the power supply. So that's a brief rundown of the planar. Let's go through and get over to the diskette. And I guess what I could do is I could pause the video and I'll get the appropriate page displayed here. Okay, this is the web page at the Ardent tool of the 8580-AXX planar. And it's got the link for the reference diskette image, being that on a 32-bit system you have, or 16-bit version with a diskette drive, you can go through and run that self-extracting executable. And then the zipped image is something you can use like WinImage or a comparable program to image the diskette. And then you have even the Model 80 technical reference has got a link there in PDF form, what edition and everything else, have the announcement letters, and showing the planar memory, and the power supply features, and then just an overview. There's the planar that we went through and looked over. You can get a little bit more information of the layout of that planar and all the components that are on there. And it even has the cache identified correctly, different from the VRAM like I just mistakenly did. Okay, and just comments and some areas that you may encounter in these systems, maybe errors in particular situations and operating systems. But that is the appropriate page for this model. Okay, let's get over to the display of what we got of our system information tool diskette that I booted from. And we are going to run the C patch of which is the latest as of this video on this unit. Okay, and it's got credits to Major Tom on that splash screen for doing the revisions. We don't have any adapters on this machine. If it were where we could, drill into the adapters or anything like that, maybe on a later video, if I redo it, I could have some adapters present in there. But it's showing the full 8 slots. This is a recognized system. The disk information, we don't have any hard drives loaded on here. This might be interesting to see what's it just says logical drives installed. So it's just a kind of a placeholder because we don't have any hard drives installed. And then there's our diskette that I have in the drive inside the unit actually. Okay. Keyboard information. So just like the earlier Type 1 and Type 2 talks about that 101, 102 keyboard supported, but this model finally has the get typomatic rate supported and set typomatic rate supported and return to default typomatic rate supported. Memory information. Okay, and it shows correctly the modules that are on the planar modules I have here. And the both of those being those 4 megabyte 80 nanosecond parity modules. Memory values. And then the memory mapping. Okay. Miscellaneous technical information. Second interrupt chip is present. Real-time clock is present. Wait on external event is unsupported. Extended BIOS data area is allocated. System has a microchannel bus. DMA supports 24-bit address space. Keyboard functionality call supported. As we just saw looking through the keyboard entries. Return POS data call supported. Return memory map call supported. Enable disable processor functions call supported. And that is, those are not supported on the Type 1 and Type 2 planar for the MUL80. The 16 megahertz and 20 megahertz planar versions. 8042 keyboard controller and system. And one of the things I should have shown on the planar, I didn't really point it out, but the Type 3 planar, the MUL80 of all the PS2s, is the only the only planar I've seen that sockets the keyboard controller chip. They're talking about that 8042, or typically it's an 8742 with the program version. And but that chip being socketed where it's soldered in on just about every other PS2 that you'll see out there. And I think the reason for it is IBM used this planar in a unit. The 3172 MUL1 had a PS2 MUL80 Type 3 planar inside there, and it's got an integrated keypad that's a little bit smaller, pops out from the unit, and I think they intended maybe that keyboard controller could be replaced for that instance, even though on that 3172 MUL1 they kept that that keyboard controller in place for that replacement, the unit that they special purposed, that 3172 Model 1. Okay, and then we have the data streaming is unsupported. We do have the patch version that that Major Tom did. That was one of the revisions of that first A version of the System Information Tools. Make it correctly report when the data streaming was supported, but still in this model it is not. And then the SCSI subsystem not present on the system board or the planar. Information panel is not installed. This is not an IML system, and SCSI support not in the IML image. Mouse information. I'm not loading a mouse driver from my SIT diskette. Operating system information identifies the MS-DOS 5 of the boot diskette. Model and processor information. We have the machine name, IBM PS2 Model 80. Processor, now it's listing as unknown here. That is, you know, the base processor of these units is a 386DX. As the System Information Tool shows it, 80386. And that may be from me having the actual CPU that I have in this unit is a Kingston upgrade. Now, normally the System Information Tool goes through and, you know, that value is just hard-coded for the CPU. So maybe in this instance, we're finding out that it may not be a hard-coded value, or there's something else going on of why it does that. And perhaps I can, sometime as an exercise, I can run the System Information Tool on an unmodified with the regular CPU to see how that is identified. Okay, it's 25 megahertz. Coprocessor is unknown. I do have a math coprocessor in the unit, and it's a regular 387DX chip, and it just may be that the CPU being different throws it. So then we have the internal cache is present, at least it identifies that. That's 64 KB of the cache. Model is F8. Again, everything over a 386SX is classified as a BIOS model of F8. The submodel of 80, and that's what IBM identified for the Type 3 planar. The Type 1 is a 00, the Type 2 is a 01, and the Type 3 is an 80. BIOS revision 01, so we do have a later BIOS version than what the model may have been, you know, initially released with. And the BIOS ROM, or the BIOS ROM date of the 21st of November, 1989. And system board POS ID FFF9. Okay. Parallel and serial port information just gives the number of ports, one port of each, like mini PS2s. SCSI information, there's no SCSI adapter in this, be it IBM SCSI or anything else. So SCSI is not present on this machine. Of course, no SCSI on the planar. Video information, this is just standard VGA. Even with the later release of this model, it still just has the base VGA on the system. So that was the System Information Tool as run on the 8580-AXX system, otherwise known as a Model 80 Type 3 planar that's based on. If you found this video informative and you enjoyed it, click on that like button. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel. There'll be much more videos like this. You'll get notified that when the new videos come out. But that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.